So I've talked a lot about why you should take your website estimate with a grain of salt and not just assume that all the estimates that you get or the quote for your project or even the contract that you sign for fixed costs is just the gospel, and that means the project will, of course, be 100% executed on time and on budget. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of these individual components of the problem that I talked about and how to maybe mitigate the risk so that you can get smarter about your projects and maybe even reduce cost or potentially even come under budget if you're really smart in all these different areas. So the obvious one that people leverage to save money is leveraging third-party apps and add-ons. So, Shopify is obviously really popular. It's a heavily app-dependent platform, so you need to use apps to execute your project. In most cases, it's pretty rare that you're just using Shopify and no apps. The first thing to do is vet the apps ahead of time. What are the apps that you need? And I would even spend time talking to the app companies, making sure that you fully understand what is involved in the app and make sure that those apps actually can execute on the functionality. I definitely see some times where people might think that the app does what they need, but then when they actually get into it or install it, it causes problems or it's not actually doing exactly what they want, and then they have to kind of find an alternative in the middle of their project. Obviously, if the app doesn't do what you want and you have to find an alternative, that's probably going to add some cost to your project. So my advice is vet the apps up front in your project. Make sure they do exactly what you need them to do to execute all the functionality that you have. And then the other is these apps can cause bugs. And this still can be the case with really any platform. It doesn't matter whether it's a SaaS platform or not. But I would also try and focus on apps that you feel confident in, like that understand the company behind the app. So you're not just installing a bunch of apps willy-nilly and not really thinking through the ramifications. So the more apps that you install or extensions or plugins or whatever they're called for your specific software, the more risk there is, and this can cause more bugs. So I really try and vet and consolidate down the apps to as few as possible and to be highly trusted third parties. So, if it's a really good company behind the app, then you probably have a little more trust in them and they might have some good support. They might be able to help you troubleshoot issues. But if it's some random guy in some random country that you have no relationship with, it's going to be hard to get in touch with them. It's not very well supported. That could cause some major issues down the road. So really make sure you vet the apps and think through them, and you're not just kind of assuming everything will work perfectly, because oftentimes when you have 10 apps or 10 add-ons, one or two of them are going to become a problem.